Hey, I wanted to share today a list I compiled of recommendations of queer books to read during Pride Month. There are 100 entries on this list, so I'm going to keep it fast and short. I wrote just a couple sentences about each of these books. I wanted to capture a wide variety of experiences and types of books in genre and form. About half of these I have read already. I actually have read exactly half of these. Not all of the ones I read I loved, but I don't think that matters. I think that these books are valuable for the discussion they've brought to my life, and they were all books that I want to read or am happy that I have read. There's a lot of good stuff on this list, so I hope you find something that calls to you here. Dayspring by Anthony Oliveira, a fusion of biblical retellings in modern-day Toronto, lyrically dense and challenging. Stone Butch Blues by Leslie Feinberg. Jess is a masculine girl growing up in a gritty blue-collar town and exploring their identity. Cassandra at the Wedding by Dorothy Baker. Cassandra is spiteful and takes it upon herself to sabotage her twin sister's wedding. Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. Leah returns to her wife from a deep sea mission, and everything is not as it seems. Odd symptoms arise, and the relationship is on rocky ground. Wound by Oksana, Vasyakina. A Russian woman returns to her hometown and confronts the death of her mother, reflective with hints of autofiction. Brainwyrms by Alison, Rumfitt. Frankie and Vanya are drawn to one another, and one is hiding a disturbing fetish, not for the faint of heart or stomach. An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon. Set on a spaceship where social and political structure is reminiscent of the pre-Civil War South, our main character is looking to incite a revolution. Glitter and Concrete. A Cultural History of Drag in New York City by elyssa, maxx, Goodman. An extensive history of drag hyper-focused on the New York City scene. La Batarde, Violette, Leduc. Leduc's autobiography, known for its explicit descriptions of her love affairs with both men and women, scandalous for its time of publication. Natural Beauty by Ling Huang. Our narrator begins to work a job at a high-end beauty store and is transfixed with the other workers' and superiors' cult-like behavior. Close to the Knives, a memoir of disintegration by Wojnarowicz. A memoir detailing his life, whose experiences includes homelessness, dealing with AIDS, and gaining success as an artist in New York City. A Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet by Becky. A ragtag crew is assembled to man the Wayfarer, a spaceship that becomes home to this diverse crew. Cozy science fiction with a plot that has lower stakes. Orlando by Virginia Woolf. Orlando has lived life as a man and as a woman. One of Woolf's most beloved works, it tackles gender norms and the roles of the 18th and 19th century. The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. An experimental memoir detailing the author's relationship with their gender-fluid partner and parenthood. Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho. Urban fantasy set in present-day Malaysia, our main character is recruited by the ghost of her grandmother for retribution against those who are disrespecting the gods. Monstrillo by Gerardo Samano Cordova. After the tragic death of her child, a mother cuts out a piece of his lung to keep and tend to. The lung is becoming more sentient and has a will of its own. The Iliac Crest by Cristina Rivera Garza. Two women force entry into our narrator's home, where he finds himself subject to accusations that make him question his own identity. In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. Stylistically, an unconventional memoir that tackles the author's experiences in an abusive relationship. Black on Both Sides, a racial history of trans identity. A history focusing on Black trans people who are frequently overlooked. Chlorine by Jade Song. Ren is a young girl just looking to please her parents and swim coach by performing well. The pressure amounts and our narrator finds an escape in becoming a mermaid. Notes of a Crocodile by Xu Miaojin. Set in 1980s Taipei, following an eclectic group of people developing a close friendship while neglecting their university studies for artistic pursuits. Paradise Rot by Jenny Val. An exchange student is housing with a roommate when both the living environment and relationship drifts in and out of hallucinatory states. Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. Reese and Amy are in a relationship and considering having a child together when Amy detransitions and the relationship ends. However, Amy, now going as Ames, has gotten his lover pregnant, and now the three must forge a way to create a family. Trash by Sylvia Aguilar Zeleny. Three women's stories are explored. Though different than one another, they each have a connection to the city dump in Ciudad Juarez. The Pink Line, Journeys Across the World's Queer Frontiers by Mark Gevisser, explores recent developments in queer rights movements that have both led to rights protections and have been under constant challenge in some countries, a strengthening of laws criminalizing homosexuality. Tin Man by Sarah Winman, a tender coming-of-age novel focused on young love and reflections on what could have been. The Complete Works of Pat Parker, a collection of Pat Parker's stories, poetry, and plays drawing from her experience as a Black lesbian. Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah, near-future dystopian where the American prison system is adapted for entertainment, allowing prisoners to compete in death matches and fight for their freedom. Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters, set in Victorian London during the 1890s, a coming-of-age story in which a young girl falls for a male impersonator. Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. Deceptively simple in its writing style, Yoshimoto's prose focuses on grief and family dynamics in the home. Nightwood by Juna Barnes. Set between two world wars and spanning numerous European cities, with a varied cast of characters, Nightwood is considered a classic of queer literature. Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. In a mistake she is too embarrassed to correct, Gilda begins work at a Catholic church, though she is a non-believer and has a girlfriend. Bestiary by K. Ming Cheng, a family saga of Taiwanese Americans, their connections to their homelands, and the myth that follows them. Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. A young girl is sent to a gay conversion camp in the mountains of Montana, full of body horror and gross-out scenes. Maurice by E.M. Forrester. A painfully sad story of heartbreak and unrequited love, Maurice was hidden by Forrester and only published after his death. We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kluwer. A couple buys a home in a remote town, and the past homeowners show up demanding entry. They oblige, but find it is more difficult to get the family to leave than first expected. The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall. Banned upon its publication for obscenity, Stephen, a masculine woman, is longing for love. A History of My Brief Body by Billy Ray Belcourt. The author's exploration of his identity, being queer and indigenous, dense with academic writing. Agatha of Little Neon. Agatha has a sheltered life in the parish where she is devoted to her faith and the community. When her horizons broaden, she begins to find her true self. Feed Them Silence by Lee Mandelow. A scientist is researching some of the last wild wolves through a technology that allows her to experience life through their eyes. Her obsession with the research leads to her relationship disintegrating as it takes a toll on her body and her mind. After Francesco by Brian Malloy. 1980s New York, our main character is grieving the loss of his partner due to AIDS while experiencing the darkest days of the crisis. Paul Takes the Form of a Mortal Girl by Andrea Lawler. Paul can transform his body from male to female on a whim and swaps between experiencing life as a woman and a man during the 1990s. These Violent Delights by Micah Nemerever. A close friendship at a university in 1970s Pittsburgh quickly turns into an obsessive and volatile relationship. Dykette by Jenny Fran Davis. Three queer couples are spending a getaway together, unabashedly gay and extra. Manhunt by Gretchen Felker Martin. Hunting feral men on the English coast and consuming their organs. Explicit content. Juno Loves Legs by Carl Geary. Juno and Legs have forged their friendship on the shared struggles of Catholic guilt and a tough upbringing in 1980s Ireland. The New Testament by Jericho Brown. A poetry collection interrogating race, sexuality, and religion in America. Ruby Fruit Jungle by Rita Mae Brown. Molly is a mess and just trying to figure out how to grow up and express herself, strong-willed, determined, and messy. Dogs of Summer by Andrea Abreu. A young girl is finding herself obsessively attracted and jealous of her best friend, Raw, honest, and vulgar. The Seep by Channa Porter. An odd, seemingly utopic future, and our main character's relationship is disrupted by the Seep, an alien entity. Cinema Love by Xiaoming Tang follows the story of closeted gay Chinese men and their wives as they experience new and different hardships after immigrating to New York City. Fair Play by Tove Jansson. Two women have a dear relationship with both nature and art as they experience life together over the years on a solitary island. The Words That Remain by Stenio Gardel. Haunted by memories of lost love from his youth, Raimundo grows old and is still longing for the past. I'm Afraid of Men by Vivek Shraya, a memoir of the author's experience growing up as a trans woman and the pain of misogyny and transphobia. Fragile Animals by Genevieve Jagger. Familial trauma, religious guilt, and a romance with a vampire. Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. Repressed and struggling with one's sexuality, our narrator tries to balance a relationship with a woman and his attraction to Giovanni. Creep. Accusations and Confessions by Miriam Gerba. An essay collection examining the many meanings of the word creep and the state of the evils of oppression creeping into one's lives. Olivia by Dorothy Strachey. Olivia is sent away to a boarding school and finds herself attracted to one of her teachers and fascinated with her relationship with the head of school. Thirst by Marina Yushuk. Dual timelines of present-day Buenos Aires and 19th century England tell the Gothic story of a relationship between vampire and human. My Brother's Husband by Gengora Tagame. A wholesome, tender manga exploring Japanese family life, cultural differences, and acceptance. Permafrost by Eva Balthazar. The first book in a triptych, we follow our narrator across Europe in her attempts to break free from traditional societal norms. Miss Major Speaks, The Life and Times of a Black Trans Revolutionary by Miss Major Griffin Gracie. The incredible story of Miss Major's life as a trans Black woman who has spent a lifetime advocating for the destigmatization of AIDS and self-acceptance. After Parties by Anthony Vyasna So. Interconnected short stories following Cambodian Americans living in California. Brickmakers by Selva Almada. Two young men are haunted by memories of their fathers and their upbringings, and they are tethered together by both love and violence. A Single Man by Christopher Isherwood. A professor is dealing with the loss of his partner and contemplating life on the outside of society's norms. The Parcel by Anosh Arani. Our main character is a Hijra and spent most of her life as a sex worker in the red light district of Bombay. Very dark topics and depictions of violence. The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Complex world building and tensions build as we are taken to a world where East and West are battling for control, featuring forbidden magic and dragon riding. How to Write an Autobiographical Novel by Alexander Chi. Essays exploring the author's intertwined experiences as a writer, activist, and a gay Korean American. The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Mi Vo. A story told in a folkloric nature, a cleric is traveling the lands and discovering the stories of the exiled empress. Mongrel by Hanako Footman. Three intertwined narratives of Japanese women who are searching for love, hope, and healing. Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey. A near dystopian future written in a Western style where much of reading material is heavily restricted and fascism is rampant. These Letters End in Tears by Mousse Teje Xavier. Set in Cameroon, where same-sex relationships are illegal, our two characters fall for one another and tragically lose contact. One tries to uncover what has happened and where she may have gone. The Color Purple by Alice Walker. An epistolatory novel telling the stories of numerous Black women from Georgia and their relationships and hardships. Deliver Me by Elle Nash. Dee Dee works in a meatpacking facility and is constantly surrounded by death and brutality. She becomes pregnant, and a friend reappears from the past, causing her to question her sexuality. Definitely disturbing. A Short History of Transmisogyny by Jules Gill Peterson. Both defines and details the history of transmisogyny. Small Beauty by Jia Ching Wilson Yang. May is grieving the death of her cousin and is connecting to her family's history. The Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith. A department worker falls for a housewife, and they both depart, one from her job and the other from her family, to pursue their love on the run. Little Fish by Casey Plett. Wendy, a trans woman, discovers that her late grandfather may have also been trans. She aims to unravel her family's history while balancing the struggles of her everyday life. Against Memoir, Complaints, Confessions, and Criticisms. A gritty collection of essays on queerness, art, and pop culture, conversational and enlightening. Body Grammar by Jules Oman. Lou is embedded in the fashion world and leaves her close friend behind for the allure of New York City, but she just can't keep her out of her mind. Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde. Empowering essay collection that explores the intersections of life as a Black queer woman, powerful and genius. Angels in America by Tony Kushner. A play set during the AIDS crisis and features people both existing in the present and those transcending life and death as angels and ghosts. Milk Fed by Melissa Broder. Disordered eating, angsty love, and mommy issues abound in this funny and sexy book. Dancing on My Own, Essays on Art, Collectivity, and Joy by Simon Wu. A personal essay collection exploring identity, art, and the pursuit of joy. Nama by Sarah Blake. A biblical retelling of Noah's Ark, but from his wife's perspective and her challenges as the matriarch of the family. Trauma Plot, A Life by Jamie Hood. A memoir dissecting some of history's most infamous women and her own identity as a survivor of sexual violence. Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Filya. Short stories highlighting Black women in the church, their relationships, both familial and romantic. Playboy by Constance Debray. Part of the author's trilogy of memoirs that details her decision to leave her marriage, home, and job after reckoning with her sexuality. Ace, What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Society, and the Meaning of Sex by Angela Chen. A combination of research and anecdotal stories exploring asexuality, emphasizes and highlights the broad and varied lived experiences of people who are asexual. Bitter Eden by Tetemukulu Africa. Autofiction, following two World War II POWs as they began to form an intimate bond while in captivity. Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. A family saga expansive in nature that follows Calliope, a Greek-American who is born intersex. Keith Haring Journals by Keith Haring. A collection of writings on art from one of America's most recognized and well-loved artists of the 20th century. Docile by K.M. Sparza. A disturbing dystopian novel where the exploitation of capitalism is on full display as people sell themselves to forgive their debts. There Are More Things by Yara Rodriguez Fowler. Takes place between Brazil and England, equally featuring friendship and romance with a backdrop of political unrest. The Black Tides of Heaven by Neon Yang. The start of a fantasy series following twins who grew up in a monastery. The revolution grows and their paths diverge. Blessings by Chukwuebuka Ebe. Set in Nigeria, our main character is punished for his sexuality. We follow him and his mother's perspectives as they struggle to heal the family's relationship. The Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez. A science fiction novel broad in scope and time, following a boy with a mysterious past and the woman who takes him in. Hot Milk by Deborah Levy. Feverish and perfect for summer, a mother-daughter duo travel to the Spanish coast in pursuit of a cure for the mother's ailments. The Death of Vivek Oji by Akweke Emeze. A heartbreaking story of Vivek's upbringing in Nigeria and journey expressing oneself and tragic end. On a Woman's Madness by Astrid H. Romer. Set in Suriname, following a woman in her escape from her abusive husband and her journey to finding herself. This concludes my 100 recommendations. I hope you find something you love on this list, and let me know if you've already read something from this and what you've thought of it. Again, I've read half of these, and half of these are books that I'm eagerly awaiting getting to, and I know that there will surely be favorites among what I haven't yet discovered. Happy Pride and happy reading.